Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another episode of The Ways We Move, the podcast that highlights mobility solutions and the people behind them. My name is Nicolas Zart, and I am your host on this podcast. And today we're going to take a little bit of a break because I just realized that I forgot to send out my podcast or to make my podcast live yesterday on the 3rd, and today is Friday the 4th, which is a holiday in the USA. I thought I would do something a little bit different. First and foremost, we've reached over 265 downloads, so I have to thank you all for your patience, for your curiosity, and again, thank you for subscribing, thank you for the likes, and thank you for sharing. That helps us grow. What we really need from you, though, at this stage is write comments. Let us know what you would like to hear, what you have learned, and if this is making more sense, this whole big advanced air mobility idea that we're talking about, if electric vehicles make sense to you, especially if you live in the US and now that the incentives are gone and there's a lot of conflicting messages as far as do people are people buying electric vehicles or are they not buying electric vehicles? And again, I'll warn you, be careful. Do not always go to mainstream news to get very specific news on disruptive technologies like electric mobility, but go to outlets that really do cover that and only cover that and give you the facts too, right? So that's one of them. I wanted to also highlight who are we going to have next, and I'm really excited about my next two guesses. It's so Becky Lute is with Emery Riddle, and she's also very involved with the future of advanced air mobility, especially when it comes to education. How do we train people? Where do they come from? What is the curriculum? What does it look like? And we stumbled on something very important that both of us have been thinking for a while is we're embracing a new technology, but we're not embracing a new business model to meet that new technology. And this has led to a bit of a schism in the industry where you have a bunch of companies going towards more technology driven solutions. And a few newer ones and also older ones are going more where the demand is for this new mode of transportation. So watch for this next race because it's really interesting. It's not even really on the radar scope of most outlets, but you've heard it here first, the ways we've moved. And our other guest is David Eisen, who is someone whom I've also been following for a very long time and someone I deeply respect for his insights. David works at the DOT of Washington, the state of Washington, and he always has some very, very uncanny and very spot on reflections on the advanced air mobility industry as a whole. Where is it going and all? One of the things that we did talk about, we went from, of course, very broad scope. What is, how is the industry? How do you see the industry to right down in your backyard in Washington state? And we started figuring out that, or actually he figured out a long time ago, I'm just repeating it, but he figured out that, this is one place, the Puget Sound, where sea gliders really could do a heck of a great job. And if you don't know much about sea gliders, we'll endeavor to bring you a little bit more about that soon enough. But they basically glide a few feet over the water and take that portance effect right over the water to just glide along in a very efficient way without having to use their wings too much. It's one of the best systems in the world. But caveat, big waves are a big no-no with sea gliders. And that's why the Puget Sound is just one of those places where it makes a lot of sense. Rivers, especially big rivers, make a lot of sense for these aircraft. Next, I guess the how we're changing a little bit of the format today is instead of having someone we're bringing on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about something that, oh my goodness, we've been working on it for so long and we're so excited to finally get a go ahead and to do it. And that is the Advanced Air Mobility Masterclass, or AAM Masterclass for short. And you can go to aammasterclass.com where you will find out more about what we've tried to do here and what we will present in September at the Rome International Airport between September 3rd to 25th. But before I talk about this, let me explain where this comes from. And it's actually two parallel projects from two different parts of the world. On my side, I was talking to my good friend Rex Alexander, you've seen here before, Clint Harper, you've seen here before, and a few other people. And we were sort of scratching our heads, wondering what's going on with the state of training in advanced air mobility. Now, there are some training courses out there, and for the most part, it's good. It's a beginning, it's a start of something, but most of those things you can get for free when you come to our podcast, or if you go to our website, electricairmobility.news, and so on and so forth. So we thought, maybe now is a good time to actually do something a little bit. Let's kick it up a notch, right? Let's bring Rex Alexander, who is probably one of the best infrastructure person you would ever need inside of advanced air mobility. Let's bring Clint Harper, who is probably one of the best person who understands airport operations and also urban planning, as you've also seen on one of our last podcasts here. And then I reached out to my good friend at Georgia Tech, Professor Marilyn Smith, who is an absolute expert when it comes down to downwash, outwash, safety features around what we used to call vertiports, which we now are morphing into multiports, and as well as how do you repair thermoplastics? How do you repair carbon fiber and things like that? So between the four of us, we decided that, wow, we actually could do a pretty good AAM Masterclass that would last 2 days. And that's what we'll be doing at the Rome International Airport. But we needed a target, and we needed the most obvious target. Who are the entities that would benefit the most from having a masterclass like that? And obviously, airports and airport officials. So we made this class specifically for you airport officials, those of you who are strategists, planning, airport planning people, those of you who are at the executive levels. What do you need to understand about advanced air mobility, its potentials, operations, integration, so on and so forth? So I drew out a big draft, and the draft really is about using some of academia's theory, but it has to be very practical. Everything that the academia or folks from university will be telling you. We have Adam Cohen from UC Berkeley will give you a lot of good ideas about what you need to think about, and Professor Marilyn Smith, of course. But then Rex, Clint, myself, and a few other people, which we'll tell you later. I guess I can say Sergio Chekuta is going to be part of us, and I've invited a few other friends. I'm still waiting for the final confirmation. We'll give you practical solutions, what they have done, what works for them, and of course, we started to look at what is the overall view. So I'll be taking care of maybe the first part of it is, what is advanced air mobility? Where did it start? And obviously, it started in the 1950s with urban air mobility, especially here in the United States, where after we had, well, when I say we, it's not me, obviously, but after the whole highway system was developed all over the United States, not every cities were connected to an even bigger city. And so they thought of this new technology back then, remember, early 1950s, right after World War II, helicopter technology would be a great way to bring people from these smaller cities, smaller towns to the bigger cities. Well, unfortunately, it didn't pan out quite like that. Helicopters grew more and more complicated and sophisticated in their technologies, which of course means that they became more expensive to own, operate, and maintain. So the whole idea of UAM using internal combustions and turbine helicopters never really panned out. Now, of course, there were a lot of cases where you did have some kind of traffic, specifically in New York City between, well, then the Penn Am building, now the MetLife building, to, if I remember well, JFK. And unfortunately, until a horrible accident happened, which sort of shut it down. But before that happened, it never made much money and it never made much sense. And so it was very, very complicated. And there were other solutions, by the way, beyond helicopters to answer that tricky UAM problem back then, gyrodynes, which I'm not going to get into. And unless we get our friends from John Air Mobility, we can talk a little bit about that later. So we're going to talk about how that morphed. And eventually in the late 90s, well, you have this electric mobility revolution of sorts happening all over the world. In Japan, Toyota and Honda, by the way, beat Toyota to the very first hybrid car. In the US, you have Ford and GM also working on electric cars and hybrids. And then somewhere out in Slovenia, you have a glider company that was putting electric motors on their gliders. And that was really the rudimentary prehistory of electric UAM as we know it now. But fast forward until the 2010s. Now we have a sort of a vague understanding of what we want to do with this extremely efficient way of flying. If those of you who have been following us, you probably know by now that an electric motor is amazing compared to its combustion piston engines or rotary engines. The electric motor delivers 100% of its torque as soon as it spins. So we have the exact opposite problem with an electric motor. We have to tone it down until it just hits its cruising speed. And it's pretty amazing when it comes to air, because put a propeller on it or jet turbines on it, and electric jet turbines on it, and that makes it a whole new efficient way of flying. Now back then, about 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago, we were mostly using energy dense batteries, and that was driven because of electric vehicles, and electric vehicles needed energy dense batteries to go the long way, whereas eVTOLs needed power dense batteries. So we didn't really have that development, but that meant that with eVTOLs using those energy dense batteries at the time, we thought it would be a good idea to go from building top to building top and eventually landing on a parking lot. Well, in reality, despite their having emergency helipads on a lot of buildings, they're absolutely not meant for multiple flights an hour, let alone bringing transformers up there to recharge the eVTOLs, and not even close to having sustainable aviation fuels or other kinds of aviation fuels, and of course hydrogen. All of that is a big no-no. Now the next buildings that are being built probably are taking that much more into consideration. And the same thing for parking lots. It was a great idea to think about those parking lots, but both parking lots and buildings would have needed a lot of reinforcement, and that would have been kind of cash negative, or at least it'd make a lot of business sense. So of course, as the one thing you can expect, by the way, when you look at the lithium battery technology, is it's gotten so much better. The energy density, the power density has shrunk, meaning more energy, more power in a battery within a given weight and volume. So of course, all of a sudden, UAM, urban air mobility, we were becoming very close to now getting to fly to another city, regional air mobility. And with that in mind, it was easier to start thinking, why don't we use airports as a mobility platform, and eventually now as an energy platform, which now morphs into a whole new topic of a lifestyle platform, this new way of moving around. About laying the stage for Rex Alexander, who's going to talk a little bit more about the concerns around infrastructures, what you need to figure out, what you need to place what, where, and how. And eventually, of course, Clint Harper will come in and tell us, what does this mean for operations? In other words, how do we have a multi-port situation where you have airplanes, helicopters, eVTOLs, eSTOLs, eCTOLs, drones, ground vehicles, all of them interacting in a uniform way? And I'm not just talking about up in the air. I'm talking about down here where, drones will be flying, eVTOLs will be taking off like this, eSTOLs and eCTOLs will be flying like this. How do we put all of that together? That's going to be on his shoulders. Adam is going to give us a great case scenario around, what does the integration of a multi-port look like? And then, of course, we'll have also Marilyn tell us a little bit about where do we put our MROs? And for those of you who might not know what an MRO is one of the most important thing that you can think of when we think of airplanes. It's maintenance, repairs, and overhaul. Now, those are three very different things, right? Maintenance, it can be done almost anywhere, really, a modicum of a little place, a hangar somewhere. But we can also have maybe mobile maintenance and repair centers, right? Just right there directly on multi-ports. When it comes to overhaul, that's a much bigger deal. That probably needs to be somewhere else, ideally central. Well, sometimes you cannot have a central location, especially when you think of New York City, Los Angeles, Dallas, all these places where you have a lot of people. Well, land is expensive. And will we have enough money to pay for these things? Well, stay tuned, because we're also working outside of the scope of this podcast on that solution, hopefully sooner than later. So there you go. This kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what we've tried to do. And the idea, at least what I wanted to do and what I know we've achieved by doing, is we've partnered with the International Airport of Rome and with their partners, Urban V, to give access to 100 airport executives who will want to come and find out a little bit more about what does it mean, advanced air mobility? How do we prepare for advanced air mobility? And what I wanted to do is make sure you have access to the top knowledge people in this industry. And I have to tell you, whenever I've been working in this industry for 20 years, specifically advanced air mobility for the last 10 years, that's a whole decade of very conceptual thoughts to now a very pragmatic, practical idea of multi-port infrastructure. Two or three of the people I depend on, and I really mean depend on, whether I write or I do a talk or I present something, is I ask Rex Alexander, what do you think of this? Does that make sense? What about a STOL port? Why don't we have an eSTOL port? And how do we integrate that with that? And of course, Clint, what about these regional airports? What are their roles, and how can we bring in more charging stations, not only for eVTOLs, eSTOLs, eCTOLs, but also for the cars, electric vehicles? And what about autonomous vehicles? What about electric buses? They each have very different requirements, outputs of energy that needs to go into these vehicles. And even Marilyn, who is absolutely amazing person. I love Marilyn. The talks I've had with her is amazing. We sit down and I always learn something. It's just like Don Birchoff. Well, unfortunately, Don cannot come. I invited him. He would have been an excellent source of, how do we work with weather? But that'll be for next time. Next time. Yes, you heard me say next time, because this is also a masterclass we want to continue in the future to offer top-notch individuals who know what they're talking about. So our next one, we want to do it at least maybe once a year for the first year or two, and then make it a bi-yearly event. And eventually, probably, just an online only and a virtual and face-to-face systems where we will develop more ways of doing this trainings. Training certification, well, yes and no. So far, we will have an accomplishment of certification that will be done, again, by Rex, Clint, Marilyn, Adam, all of these people, of course, myself too. And as soon as we can, we will look into, and we are already looking into, from the big companies out there, the biggest education centers out there, hopefully Embry-Riddle. We will have a professor from Cranfield who will come to us, and a few other aviation regulatory bodies too. So we are working on the certification side of all this. Right. I hope I've enticed you. I've intrigued. I've hoped I've sparked your curiosity. If you are working in an airport, you're part of an airport strategy, part of the ALP process, or any of these things, and you don't really quite know what advanced air mobility is, or you think you might know, because, by the way, this is one thing that I've noticed and that led to this training certification or this training class is I found that half of the airports seem to know what it is, sometimes more so than they actually do know, and seem to think that they know what they're doing. But when I see their ALPs, I'm thinking, oh gosh, no, not at all. You need to bring in Rex. You need to bring in Clint, which is what we're doing now. And the other part, the other 50%, they're kind of like, yeah, that's far away from here, 15 years from now. Well, maybe, much less, by the way, maybe, but you still need to plan for it right now. An ALP takes 3 to 5 years. Right now is the time to spend pennies on the dollars, not double to triple digit dollars later on when you need to catch up with everybody else. There you go. Hopefully that will entice you to ask questions. Please reach out to me. It's very simple. My name is Nicolas. There's no H. Nicolas. Last name is Zart at electricairmobility.com. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. You can go to AAM Masterclass. That's all in one word, AAMmasterclass.com, where you can find out much more than that. And we're always looking for sponsors too, by the way. If you would like to sponsor this one or the next one, hopefully, should I say it? It's going to be in Paris. We don't have the actual real green light to say that, but I'm going to say it because that's just what I want to do right now. So that will be there. And then after that, we have a few international airports. We're very excited that will be hosting it. Hopefully, this will bring your attention to AAM Masterclass and to see what we've done. We've put in a lot of work in this. We've put in 8 months of work so far into it, and it's coming along just fine. And we would love to hear your thoughts and love to see you over there, and love to see you on those workshops that we will have there after everything you've learned. There you go. This is the 4th of July's podcast of the ways we've moved, a little bit unconventional, but we'll go back next week and we'll invite David to come and talk to us. And after that, we look forward